Confusion about gender and sexuality is being sown into the hearts of this generation. No part of our world is untouched by this confusion as it is impacting our communities, schools, families, and even churches. This confusion spreads from the preschools in our neighborhoods to the highest court in the land, and its darkness has come to rest all across the globe. But God has not left us without hope. He has not left us without answers. In the midst of this darkness, God has spoken, and His word shines with clarity. In confusing times, our confidence must be in our all-sufficient God, who has provided us with an all-sufficient word. Join us at Brookes Bible College for the 2025 Soul Care Conference on gender and sexuality.
Hey, thanks for joining us for another episode of Triple Play. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and don't forget to share this around to all your friends. We are excited. We got an awesome guest today, somebody I've gotten to know for at least the last several years.
Yeah.
So Bob Richter, I met you first at, I think it was Justin's wedding, bachelor party, right? Or something like that.
Dennis's birthday party. Gave him a baseball.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got the signed baseball. Right. And then after that, I met you later on. So, and we started working out at the gym together. And then you started sharing your testimony, and I was like blown away by just the grace of God through your life. So give us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little about where'd you grow up, a little bit about your background, and maybe lead us up to your meeting your wife.
Yeah,
so.
Sure. I'm from this area, so I grew up in Belleville. Was born in 54, so if you count the years, you guys have to
You're exactly 20 years older than me then, because I was born in 74.
All right.
You don't look like you were born.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I turned 70 a couple of weeks ago. And so I grew up in Belleville, and my dad actually was general manager of Offenburg Ford. So used to see him at the Lincoln Theater on Saturday mornings, and my dad's picture would light up screen with all the kids in there, and it'd say, "Go see Ray Richter Ford." So we had a lot of fun with that. I had kind of a rough childhood. My mom and dad loved each other desperately, but they were not very functional. Both came from difficult backgrounds, and so life growing up was tough, difficult. Grew up in that area, graduated from Belleville Township High School West. Important thing to talk about when you're in St. Louis.
What's the mascot? You got a mascot?
Oh, the Mighty Maroons.
Right?
The Maroons. I've never figured out just exactly what a maroon is, but are
Maroons.
Maroons. That's right.
All right. Look it up after. Maroon.
Yeah. That sounds good. And so I, around the age of 18, I was living with my dad at the time, and I fell head over heels. 5-foot Italian. It's Debbie Polito. And that was the beginning of what has been an interesting ride for over 50.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when did you guys get married? How old were you?
So I was 18, fresh out of the Navy. And
So when did you go in the Navy? Fresh out of the Navy?
Well, so there really want to go deep into this story, right? So I was in high school. I actually enlisted in the Navy in my senior year and went into a cash program. So it was May when I enlisted, September when I went in. I spent an entire 30 days in. Yeah, it's a whole nother story. Honorable discharge, whole good thing. But I signed to a naval pilot, and unfortunately, they didn't do testing in St. Louis Station. Red-green colorblind. And you can't naval pilot, red-green colorblind. So it ended up 30 days later, I got out. So, and then it was right after I got out of that, that Deb and I married November of 19.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, whole another story.
Was that
My mom and dad got married in October of 73.
Wow.
Yeah, because I was born in 74.
was that hard news to hear? I mean, it sounds like not a lot of people want to grow up to be pilots. That and then to
I was
hear that
crushed.
you can,
Yeah, it's like my fantasy fly an F-8. I got an interesting opportunity several years ago. I helped do part of St. Louis Angels.
Oh wow.
And unfortunately, I didn't get to fly with them.
Yeah.
But that would have been from
The ultimate, yeah.
Yeah, it would have been.
That would have been cool.
Yeah.
Would have been really cool. So you guys get married really young, basically.
Yes. Yeah. I was 19.
Did you guys stick around where you grew up? Did you leave and go somewhere else?
We ended up in Belleville for a while after we married.
Yeah.
Then we moved to Champaign-Urbana. And it was the first 5 years of our marriage that were difficult years. I mean, year 5 or way in marriage to a new, but with our dysfunctional backgrounds. Deb comes from family background. She had abuse. Family member. I had physical abuse from stepfather. Physical, tough, not sexual. So you can imagine coming into this marriage, not being pretty much set up for really tough. Out. Spent a lot of time trying to work. And as a result of all of those ags that happened was there was infidelity. Into 5 years. So broke. They really didn't have any firm foundation. So in 1978,
So you, I want to get a little bit into those first 5 years. A lot of luggage that came along in there. You broken people. Growing up, had you even been introduced to faith at all? Was that anything even remotely in your sphere at all? Did you go to church a couple times a year or not even?
good question. I grew up in a church. Always made sister. And so I knew God. I had all of the just standing that young person. We were part of St. John's United Church of Christ. I went through catechism. All the right stuff that really didn't move from my head to my. I went through life much believing that my responsibility my power, my might. I was going to.
Yeah, those 18 inches from your head to the heart can make all the world of difference. From you, so you grew up in a religious background, but you had never really taken root of the gospel in your own life. So the seeds had been planted, but nothing had been growing. Okay, I was just curious. How about Deb? I don't. Obviously, she's not here, but what do you know? What her background was a little bit?
Her family, being the true Italians are, grew up Catholic, right? And so there was a lot of Catholic talk, but church was not asked the mass. She didn't go to church per se. Her mom was Protestant. Her mom. So that was in and of itself confusing. Even from a religious, have a divorced family background. A lot of times there's a division in so I think for both her and I, fusion didn't give us the groundwork. Please step into strong faith.
So hers would be more by what I like to call like religious by birth, like you're Catholic by birth, but never really gone to Catholic service or things like that, and then kind of more of family has moral values that maybe were offshoots from that years ago or at one point in their family, but not really actively being grown as moral values. So,
Yes.
so okay.
Yeah.
Tell us what you went to or wanted to study when you went back to school.
Oh, well, I started off in architectural engineering. Decided that I was going to do something positive, build structures, get out there as an architect. And that quickly morphed into business. I found out there wasn't a whole lot of money in architecture. So went to actually started off at Belleville Area College. We moved to Champaign-Urbana. I started at small school there, Parkland. And then it was after we divorced, moved to Atlanta, Kennesaw University.
Okay, how's
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah. So spent my career 42 years with AT. Retired in 2008. Successful career. I had a organization, service and sales, and retired for months. Went back to work. So I'm in retirement. Been working for a company in Fenton, Missouri for 5 years called CTA Incorporated. Price to Christian ministry support company, merchandising company. Have several divisions.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'll have to find out more information about that. That'd be good to find out about. So, yeah. The kind of rewinding. So you go to Atlanta, you're going back to school there, which is why you went there, obviously. So,
I really went there.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Went pretty far.
Interestingly, she was followed me down. So
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that. How does that transition? How you divorce and you make this decision? I'm going to get away from her. I'm going to go to Atlanta, go to school and get away from her. And what happens?
well, the motivation was I needed a fresh start. That was so typical. Moved as a result of my family's MO. Things get tough. Try to start over. Try to get away from problems. So my next move was my sister and brother-in-law happened to. An easy move. I was moved towards family, not, and I moved down there about a month out of here, get away from things that causing you needed to in with you. So I still loved her. So I said yes. So it was about 30 days later. It was Christmas of 79. I'm heading back up to St. Louis with my parents, and I did. I left. She had been in the apartment by. What I didn't know until after the is that at time. However, I'd had a different. There was a couple that lived across. That couple somehow connected that time. So while I'm gone, while I'm running away, getting away from her, this couple and her collide. I'd interviewed. So I'm saved. It's an amazing story. What are you were betting? Is that a triple play?
Well, yeah. Well, and when you said that, what I was kind of going through my mind is she was finally ready to end her life, and that's where that's where you can start. When you're ready to end the way you're going to live, is when Jesus can pick up and live through you. So he isn't going to wrestle us for position. He wants you to lay down and give it to him.
You know, and that's an interesting point, because in the apartment I had gotten into I can remember falling to my crying. I was at lowest spot. We were crying out. Particularly for me, I have to get able to so low that sovereign. So when I got back from Atlanta, or back from St. Louis to Atlanta, Deb was gone. She was out of the apartment. Had no idea what had happened. Sorry, I keep moving away.
Yeah, okay.
So I was really confused. I didn't know what had happened, and I didn't really try to connect with her for a little bit. And then slowly, over a period of time, so God's got a sense of humor.
Always.
So
I often say he's a god of laughter. He made me.
Well, this will make you laugh. So of course I started dating, and the first girl I met, I started dating, her name was Debbie. Ended that relationship, started a second relationship. Her name was Debbie. 3 times.
Seriously?
Triple play. I'm serious.
That's
So the first 3 women that I meet, that I start dating, they're all named Debbie, and I'm saying, okay, God, what's going on here? And so over a course of time, we started connecting. My Deb, my original, and it was slow at first, and it was very cautious, kind of reconnecting and kind of understanding where she was in her life. Over what I would say was probably about 6 months, just noticed change. And I didn't know whether to trust it or not, whether it was just he wanted to somehow. And so it was in July of 1980. He'd come over to the apartment, sitting on the sofa, looked at her. Something different. That's when she began to explain to me what happened, what had changed. Totally changed every.
Awesome.
And she continued to explain that meant really have come to the decision, Christ in your heart. I didn't say much to her at that time. She talked again, back to the apartment, sat on that same couch. And the Bible talks about bringing a man to by necessarily what we say, it's the different others, and whether it's genuine. Her testimony, what had occurred, changed the saw it, changed it. I prayed with her, accept Christ that. So from July until November of continued to grow in our grow as Christian. That no remarried. And so there's a big debate between or we married. Because I say we bridged our service after 5 years. So anyway, you'll talk to her. It's 48.
Either way,
That's
an amazing testimony of a legacy that and the difference that God makes in a life and in a marriage is the difference between 5 years and 48.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
So obviously, life just doesn't become hunky dory. You still have luggage, right? That didn't go away, but God eases that burden and it helps you work through that. What was that like? I mean, now you guys are believers. You're getting remarried. This time, you still got the same luggage, so the same problems exist. But now it's how you're able to function in dealing with them. You don't have to feel the burden of all that on your own shoulders, right? So, how does that play out this time in your marriage?
Yeah. First 6 months of the remarriage were good. They were still tough. There were still things that from past experiences, and in about 6 months, I was actually eating breakfast. Always did my quiet time and read the Bible during. And I remember a passage out of Proverbs. God said, wise man seeks the counsel. That just hit me on a brick. We got into those same habits, started not. And at Jesus, we still weren't doing what we needed to. Weren't acting. And so I went in to pray with her before I left for work. I got done praying. I said, a lot of brokenness in me. I went 2 times, and by the third, said, that began counseling, amazing, just so filled with Spirit. We worked 6 months, just mine and Packet, and our pasts and our backs, and helping us get past the old stuff. Then we spent 6 months building our. Remember at what's the last session we had with? He said, "Well, I think we've gone as far as we need." One other thing, but it's not. You guys would be, but you want to kind of find out about this. Come back next. You guys go home and determine whether. And so we left, got in the car, and it didn't take us. To want to go back. Agreed. When we went back, that said this amazing thing. Coming back tells me I must want more. She shared a verse. One that says, comes in life. And said, your fact, you guys came telling me suing about won't stop today going. Have to keep back to.
That is good. And what I loved about that, a couple things you just said in that whole conversation is that there is good Christian counseling, because sometimes it gets a stigmatism, right? Because we got a lot of kooks out there in today's world and a lot of secular ideology. But good biblical counseling is still good, right? It's still necessary. And the other thing I like is that there was a defined period of time. So you spent 6 months working on your luggage, and in 6 months rebuilding your marriage, up. And I love the fact that there was defined periods of time to work on this stuff. And I'm sure she would have extended if needed it, but having some guardrails so that the expectations and where we're heading with the counseling is always good. Because I hear people come to me sometimes, they'll start telling me about Christian, or I'm going to counseling, and then they'll be like, "Yeah, I've been doing this for 5 years." I'm like, "Are you getting anywhere?" 5 years in, not that maybe you don't need it, but I mean, this seems like a long time if you're going every week for 5 years. Or is this somebody who's just trying to get money from you and just giving you a listening ear? And maybe that's what you need. Maybe you need a listening ear. Some people do, but I just was trying, there's a lot of different things out there, and it's just good to know. It sounds like you really found a home run, a grand slam in a person. And that the fact that she had the wisdom even to say, "Hey, I got this little thing. Come back if you really are interested." And in fact, you guys showed up, and it just had to do with the fact that she was trying to see if you still wanted to invest in your marriage. The fact that you wanted to invest in your marriage spiritually would be an ongoing process the rest of your life. It doesn't end after counseling. It doesn't end after a good marriage conference. It doesn't end after pre-marriage counseling. It doesn't end the day you get married or, the day you have kids. That this work of sanctification, this work of growing in the Lord, both individually and together, is an ongoing process that you do the rest of your life.
It's still a work. I'll back up. I think it's important to realize that couples are really their path against self as created so discord. Sometimes it takes friends experience not giving, continue to work. And having Christ in your, when Christ gives it, when we have hope, and that doesn't exist, then I think one just some years ago statement about eyes of America. I've paid a lot of attention to marriages happening. How difficult, and not wrong. Look at force, all of those challenges. I don't think counselors will do that work.
I would agree. I would say, the first institution that God puts together is the institution of marriage, right? So it's no wonder, because it's one of the foundational ones to everything else that happens,
Well,
right?
zookeeper, right? Yeah.
That's very astute. I like that.
Well,
I'm joking.
I know you are.
I think it's real, but I'm joking.
No, but
Sorry.
But they always say the first institution that God created is the institution of marriage. So,
yeah.
And of man and woman coming together, and so it would be no wonder that it would be the first one that Satan would attack.
Yeah.
And the institution of family, not just marriage, but then family is the second one, right? The first great crime or first murder we see in the Bible is a brother against a brother over jealousy. So, and we see how that leads. So, and then we see where man gets really bad just a few chapters later in Genesis, where Lamech comes out and says, those guys are nothing. I've killed 10,000 more men than those guys, and I've slept with 10,000 more women than those people, and just bragging about his sin, right?
Yeah.
And it's shortly after that point where God says, hey, man's gotten so bad, I'm going to wipe it out with a flood. And so it's no wonder that the institution of marriage and family continue to be some of the number one targets of Satan, even in today's society. And it's one of the reasons why I feel churches need to be better at equipping parents and families more than ever in today's world. I really just feel I'm a huge proponent of men's ministry. Fatherlessness is, you look at divorce rates, you look at a lot of things out there, and a lot of it's tied: crime, divorce, suicide, transitions that we're seeing right now. A lot of that stuff, you can pinpoint a lot of that to fatherlessness. So, bringing back fathers that lead the home. We all probably can go down people, and even good people, but they don't lead their home. The women are leading the home, and that's because when a man abdicates his position, a woman will step right up. It has to be done. Somebody's got to lead the home.
That happened somewhere in history.
Yeah. And so I just think that, men need to step up. But then the next part is making sure that how we, as men treat our wives with respect, with honor, with dignity, uplifting them. A woman doesn't have to be quote unquote a feminist if they feel all those things.
Exactly.
So they will understand they are feminine. They will understand their value and their worth, and
right.
We
were made to complete one, not compete.
Correct.
Which is an amazing relationship, wife, husband, when you realize how God built, and didn't build us, lord over one another, of us to see this partnership work in an amazing way. And it's taken Deb and I. But he's never let us alone. Said, what's the rest of the story, right? So in our brokenness, all of the difficult. One thing that he's always brought into our other couple. It all started kind of subtly when I'm into say, hey, marriage, help us. And we started off slow. We're about 17 couple that moved from Minnesota, St. Louis, and started coming to our church. And they brought with them a ministry called, of course, we rewrote it more. Church basis of ministry was that we would work with seeing problems and try to build. So we started that ministry, started working and began to help, which now has more new for 10+ years. We thought, well, instead of working with couples that have fractured relationships, what if we got ahead of that curve? And
that was good. I love it.
Hit it out front.
And we started working with couples who were engaged, planning on being married, and start mentoring them before they ever get into trouble. So we've been leading premarital mentor for had more than 40 couples, and it absolutely how God, mine and Deb's pastor, what he's done in our life, able to speak and prepare them for what lies ahead and lay it all on the table. I mean, there's not much we don't talk about. Certainly here, that marriage can be difficult. But if you invest in it, God intends most rewarding thing.
Love it. One of the things you've said over and over again, and you've said it kind of different ways in the fact that, like, hey, we sought counseling, and then God was bringing us other people our way, and now we're doing this. We started doing the rebuilders. Is that we're not meant to do life isolated?
Absolutely.
And if you're struggling in a marriage or you're trying to grow, there's a reason why, several times in the Bible, you see older women should be teaching the younger women to children, men be seeking out Paul Timothy type relationships. There's these overflowing themes throughout Scripture of this mentorship and friendship. You have Paul and Jonathan, whose hearts were knitted together and watched out for each other's back. Just throughout Scripture, you find these different relationships that you can key in on. And all that trying to say is, life was not meant to be isolated. God has called us into a community. God has called us, whether you need really in-depth help, counseling, or small group help, or you just need people to help point you in the right direction and give you that encouragement weekly or daily. I just got done meeting before a podcast with a young man that you and I both know, and started out 3 years ago, and he was broken, had grown up in the church, really not made the faith his own, came to that conclusion, and a week from today, next Saturday, he's getting married.
I know.
And I was laughing at him today. I said, this is the same guy that like 3 years ago was boo-hooing that he didn't know where God was going to have him, didn't have a woman, wanted to finally get a godly woman, didn't know where to find him, had left the lifestyle that he had been clinging to from his youth, and had found a personal relationship with the Lord, and just watching this 3 years of growth in his life as we walk through Scripture together. And it sharpened me, by the way, just so we're clear, I grow just as, I'm sure you say the same thing, I grow just as much. It's not like I'm putting into him, he's putting into me too, and holding me,
it's
sharpening
because
me.
of faithful men like you coming alongside a couple and discipling them. And I use the word disciple. It's not just to stand Jesus, but it's to do life together. It's the church. It's not with people who are broken also. One of the best signs I ever saw, marquee outside of at a church is nothing more than a hospital. We're all there. We all need, but coming alongside others, it's the mark of Christ in us. It's our responsibility forward and bring up, help them go through the. So thank you for doing that for him. I love that young man, Dustin.
Me too. He's great. I have a question because I know we got a little short time. Maybe we'll bring you back another time, but we can really dig in a little more of this. But 3 things when you're dealing with your premarital counseling or these rebuilders, are the 3 keys that you would say to every one of them? These are 3 things that if you just focus on these top 3 things will really make an impact in your marriage.
Yeah, great question. So we have this visual, say it, and it's an isosceles triangle. Isosceles triangle, a triangle with 3 equal sides. As at the you're at one point, significant other you're on the other point. You're as far away from relationship. In other words, having so many, not communicating, feel like divorce may be imminent here. There's one thing you can do. That is on your question we always asked our couple. Take that picture of that triangle, and you and spouse start working on or what is the 2 of you as you move closer to God happens to your proximity.
Closer.
Move closer, right? I mean, it's like, this is not rocket science. Because when you're having the most difficult, you're at probably your farthest from God as well. So, number 1, that will help your relationship. God has this amazing selves. We're wrong. The other is, I would tell you that probably the most important second point, said this at work, said this in of any back 80%. So if you can learn how to communicate, listen, understand, speak, and things like, I really want to understand. I don't have you understand me. I need to start looking at things and to open, communicate to. And third point, say, that's a recent because of mine and Deb's. I think we learned a lot of things to understand that hard. That goes, I say I love her. Most important, going through experience, diverse week of our couples, out of to paraphrase, just think more. I concentrate on her heart will be age. We're learning to respect one another and
Rich. Love it. Yeah. We're going to bring you back because I know we have a lot more we could dig into. Like, seriously, like I feel like I could sit here for 2 hours and talk about marriage and the family and with all your experience. I mean, 45 years of being married, the fact that you went through a divorce and you know, we could sit in there a little bit too, because how many people say, I can never love that person again. I'm divorced, or I still love that person, but I'll never be able to trust them again. I mean, there's a whole slew of things I know that we could just dig into. That I'd love to do maybe on another episode where we could kind of get into some more maybe minute parts of different things. But I really want to say thank you so much for your time today, because this has been I've just been sitting back and gleaning a lot. I think Scott's been doing the same thing.
I bet you have my attention.
well, it's all God, man.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, well, God is good. And I love the story that how God can fix the broken.
Yeah.
We can't fix it.
Yeah.
It's got to be God.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that God loves to use the community of believers to come around and rally and help us do that. We not only does he do it, but he loves to do it through his people. And so that said, if you're listening to this, let me tell you something, and you've not had pre-marriage counseling, you need to seek it. If you're already married and you never went through counseling, go find a good marriage course. Go ask your church what they got. If not, give us a holler. Look in our, we'll get you plugged in, because there's so many great marriage studies out there. There's great marriage conferences out there. I recommend that people try to catch a marriage conference at least every few years or so. Or, you know, to be doing something to enhance your marriage, you know, not just, don't let it go stale. So do something. Invest in your marriage. You invest all the time. You invest in the stock market. You invest in keeping your house upkeep. Most people don't think about investing in their marriage, and yet they should. That should be almost more important, because your house will eventually fall apart, and it means nothing without a family in it. And your portfolio, she takes half if you get divorced. So, you know, like, you should really think about investing in your marriage, and it should be one of the top priorities. Yet most people don't take that to invest in that. And so I know at my own church right now, we've got a marriage class we're offering on Wednesdays that'll be wrapping up in a few weeks, and then we'll be doing it again in the spring. And we got a lot of people that don't even come to our church that are showing up for that Bible study, because it's such a need in the community. It's such a need out there to people. And so don't feel like if you're listening to this and you're going, oh, that's weak soup, or I can't do that, or that'd be weird. I mean, none of these guys here are not manly men. Scott played for the Dodgers. He's a manly man. I know Bob, this guy works out at the gym. Look at him. He's a peak at 70 years old. No, you're a manly man. I mean, you're not like some fat slob who's showing up here saying this. You invest in your body, but just as much you're investing in your body and all the manly things that are out there, you understand the value of your marriage. And the same thing with me. So, you know, nobody here is some pansy guy. So I know you guys well enough that you go hunting, fishing, you do all the manly stuff that we love to think of masculine. But at the end of the day, each one of us has a successful marriage because we understand the importance of God in our lives, our importance of God in our marriages, and the importance of investing in our marriages. So when you brought up the isosceles triangle, I'm reading a book right now by a good friend of mine. If you want to find it, you can find it on Amazon. It's by Dr. Joe Brasher. It's his only book. And it's an amazing marriage book. I'm 2 chapters from finishing it up right now. I'm on chapter 9, about halfway through. So there's 10. So, but so far I can say it's been a really good book so far. So
Should we?
yeah. No, we just investment. One of the things that I always, when we talked about 3 things, I always ask people when they come to me, I go, how's your prayer life? How's your study time? And how's your prayer life and study time with your wife? Are you praying for your wife? Because if those things, in 90% of the time, all or most of those things are not happening. And I'm like, so you want your marriage to be successful, but you're not investing in your own spiritual life. You're not praying for your spouse. You're not doing things with your spouse to invest in them spiritually. And then you're shocked that the results are terrible. And you're coming to me telling me you're a believer. And so I said, nothing I can give you right now will fix anything if you're not doing at least those 3 things. If you're not investing in yourself spiritually, you're not praying and turning it over to God and praying specifically for your spouse, but also pray for your own heart. God would soften your heart. Because 90% of the problem, especially us guys, right, is that we're self-centered jerks. So I'm usually 90% of the problem. So
Psalm 51 is my choir offering.
we'll end it there. I think that's a good place to end it.
Thanks for coming, Bob.
Yeah. Thank you
for
so
the
much.
privilege.
All right, we'll catch you guys next episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch ya. Hey, we hope you enjoyed this episode of Triple Play. Don't forget, as always, to like and subscribe and share. Get the word out. We appreciate that. Also, don't forget to support those that support us, like Resource One and Andy McCallum's team. If you have any financial planning needs, give those guys a call, 636-458-1798, no matter where you're at in life. If you're going through divorces, we've had episodes on here. They've got people who can help you prepare for that. If you're retiring, they got people who happen help you for that. And if you're young and just trying to get started, trying to figure out what's the best first step, they've got people for that. So consider Resource One, Andy McCallum and his team there, 636-458-1798. Also, Chris with CS Design, they do our intro or outro. They do the logos. They're wizards at graphic design. They're wizards with all things, I call it technology related or social media related. Give those guys a call. Chris is great, 573-436-3717. And lastly, don't forget, if you have any insurance needs, give Jeff Earhart at 314-821-5333 a call. And those guys would be glad to help you at State Farm with your insurance needs. So State Farm, Jeff Earhart's agency, 314-821-5333 or Jeff. And we appreciate your support as always, and we'll catch you next episode.